Hello everyone, welcome once again to the NZEB Knowledge Series. This is a weekly webinar that brings to you design, technology, tools, policies, ideas, everything to do with energy efficiency in buildings that leads to achieving the goal of net zero. This program is an initiative under USAID funded MATRE program that stands for Market Integration and Transformation for Energy Efficiency. You can learn more about the program on our website, medri.edsglobal.com. So today we have a very different session on USGBC LEED Zero rating system. So far in our webinars, we've talked about buildings, and last week we even spoke about Infosys as an organization as to how they've achieved over a decade ultra high performing buildings. So here we are now talking about a program, which is like a framework that will actually measure and verify the net zero goals. A little bit about me, I'm Deepa. I'm a architect and a green building consultant, and I will be moderating the session today. And with me, I have our speaker today, Emma Hughes. She is a project manager at USGBC in the LEED department. She collaborates with industry stakeholders, sustainability professionals, and USGBC and GBCI staff to develop and refine the LEED building rating system. Emma supports the technical development and maintenance of LEED credits, guidance, and associated tools, and serves as staff liaison to multiple committees, networks of diverse volunteer experts who help define the best practices and requirements in LEED that guide better design, construction, and operations of the built environment. She has earned a BS in International Relations from Boston University. Just so everyone knows, Emma it's pretty early morning for her. It's 7 a.m. In Florida. So I really appreciate and thank Emma to be on this panel and share her, experience and thoughts about the LEED Zero rating system. And just before we go further into this, I always like to give a little introduction so there is a little context to why we are discussing this topic today in this webinar. So just to give a little overview, LEED Zero program was launched in 2018 and it addresses net zero operations and resources in buildings. It's applicable to LEED certified buildings that have been operational for at least 1 year. So essentially, it measures and verifies the existing building operations. So obviously, it's relevant that we discuss this program in this webinar because in net zero, it is really important to actually verify if the energy generation meets or the energy use or exceeds it. The program goes beyond energy. It also addresses waste and water and carbon. And so this kind of a program gives a framework to how to go about achieving the goal of net zero. And it also communicates the verification of the goals to the market, thus signifying leadership. So with that, Emma, I welcome you to today's session.
Great, thank you, Deepa. Just trying to make sure I have the controls, and I do. So thank you for that, and thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure for the opportunity to be able to speak with you all today about LEED Zero, which is USGBC's newest certification program. You can think of LEED Zero as sort of a complement to your existing LEED certification, which again verifies the achievement of net zero goals during building operations. The LEED Zero program was really designed to help stretch the market, recognizing leadership and also aligning with the broader system goals of LEED. Ultimately, this certification really defines what a LEED project should be striving to accomplish. LEED has historically been engaged in helping address the building sector's greenhouse gas emissions and contributions to climate change, not just from energy use, but also from choices around project location, siting, site landscaping, building maintenance, and material selection. So the graphic on the screen now shows the breakdown of points that are allocated in LEED version 4, which was the comprehensive rating system update that we released in 2013. This rating system, the credits in this rating system were weighted or allocated points with the goal of protecting resources and achieving different goals. You can see, based on this points breakdown graph, that 35% of the points available in LEED version 4 support the outcome of reducing building contributions to climate change. So we had sort of a solid foundation for looking at building contributions to climate change via our LEED version 4 rating system. Additionally, as we've been tracking data on the global building sector, especially since the Paris Agreement, we see that buildings are not quite where they need to be. We are not yet on the path to reduced emissions and reduced warming scenarios. On the positive side, building emissions appear to have peaked in 2013. The energy use intensity, or EUI, of buildings continues to come down by about 1.5% per year since 2013. However, buildings have increased in floor area, growing by as much as 2.8% a year since 2000. And this increase in the average size of buildings has really wiped out any efficiency improvements. We have seen recent growth in net zero energy buildings, at least in North America, as tracked by the nonprofit organization, the New Buildings Institute. We know that there is a strong nexus between LEED certification and net zero energy. So about 2/3 of the zero energy buildings that are tracked and listed by the New Buildings Institute in 2018 were either registered to pursue LEED certification or have already achieved LEED certification. So understanding this sort of overlap between zero energy buildings and LEED certified buildings, and the need to encourage the market to push harder and further reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. In developing the LEED Zero program, USGBC really recognized an opportunity to help shape this growth in net zero and to better support buildings that are both net zero energy as well as, meeting the definition of a green building. This I just wanted to share. This is again a database that NBI tracks. It's an interactive map and shows you zero energy emerging or zero energy verified buildings in North America. And again, what I like about this interactive graph is that it shows you that increasingly diverse building types, not just your standard commercial office building, but also education, multifamily, sort of warehouse buildings. These are all increasingly candidates to achieve zero energy. So it really is becoming a more and more tangible goal as the technologies evolve. And additionally, the other thing that I wanted to point out about this database, the map that you see really shows that zero energy is possible in diverse climate zones and geographic regions. So it's not just limited to specific building types or geographic locations. It's really increasingly becoming feasible for diverse buildings to hit that zero energy goal. The last thing that I just wanted to note in terms of development and alignment with LEED Zero is that the LEED Zero carbon certification, which I'll talk a little bit more about, also aligns with the Net Zero Carbon Buildings Commitment Platform. This was launched last fall at the Global Climate Action Summit in San Francisco by the World Green Building Council. So this commitment has already been joined by a number of US cities, as well as a number of corporations, such as Salesforce, Kilroy Real Estate, Integral Group, Shaw Contract, NRDC, and others. So in addition to increasing achievability of zero goals, we're also seeing other organizations, declare commitments or create programs to verify zero in building operations. Lastly, I'll say we also considered a LEED zero certification in the context of the ARC platform, which already features carbon analytics for energy use and for transportation, and a screenshot of that is on the screen now. The ARC platform also helps project teams track their water usage and their waste generation. So we did have, before we developed the LEED Zero program, a benchmarking platform available to help project teams understand how much carbon emissions how they are generating as a result of their building operation. So the LEED Zero program actually comprises 4 distinct LEED Zero certifications. Each certification is focused on operating performance, and it serves to verify the achievement of net zero goals over the last 12 months of building operations. There are 2 minimum program requirements for LEED Zero. The first is the ability to provide 12 months of operating data, depending on the certification that you're pursuing. And then the second is previous LEED certification under the Building Design and Construction or Operations and Maintenance Rating System, or you are registered to pursue certification under the LEED Operations and Maintenance Rating System. So again, you can think of LEED Zero certification as a complementary add-on or an additional signal of leadership in addition to your holistic green building certification, which looks again at building sustainability all the way from siting project locations, landscaping, materials choices, energy usage, water usage, indoor air quality. And then again, we have 4 distinct certifications that build on sort of the requirements of the LEED rating system and look a little more narrowly at a specific usage of a resource. So those are LEED Zero Carbon, LEED Zero Energy, LEED Zero Water, and LEED Zero Waste. And now I'll talk about each of the certifications and the requirements for achieving them. So LEED Zero Carbon recognizes buildings that are operating with net zero carbon emissions over the course of the past year. This certification provides a transparent accounting of the carbon balance. And here we are looking at carbon emissions generated from energy consumption and occupant transportation to carbon emissions avoided or offset via renewable energy generation or procurement. So that is the carbon balance now. I just wanted to note that USGBC intends to expand the LEED carbon certification in the future to incorporate carbon emissions caused from water consumption, waste generation, and the embodied carbon of materials used in the carbon into the carbon balance. So again, right now, emissions are we're just calculating from building energy usage and occupant transportation, but we are right now evaluating and considering ways that we can address carbon emissions caused from the usage of other materials, such as materials, waste, and water. So stay tuned for that. I just wanted to flag that for future reference. So here on this slide is a snapshot of what the LEED Zero carbon balance looks like. So this table is under the energy consumption rows is actually condensed and edited from the LEED Zero program guide so that it fits on this slide. But again, in short, carbon caused is the sum of emissions from building energy consumption and occupant transportation to and from the building. And here we are looking at all sources of energy usage on the project. We use the ARC platform to automatically calculate carbon dioxide equivalent emissions from electricity usage. The electricity consumption is converted into equivalent greenhouse gas emissions using the US EPA sub-regional grid mix coefficients for projects in North America and national grid mix coefficients from the International Energy Agency's carbon emissions from fuel combustion report for projects outside of the US. We are also permitting project teams to complete an offline calculation to calculate carbon emissions from electricity usage on an hourly basis. And this will be available to project teams where there is an appropriate source of hourly carbon emissions factors for their local grid. The reason that we are encouraging project teams in LEED 0 and also in our newest update to the rating system, LEED version 4.1, which I'll touch on in a couple minutes, is that we want project teams not just to consider how much energy they are using, but also the time of usage of that energy. Understanding that the time that buildings are using energy can have significant impacts on grid operation and resilience. And then looking now at transportation, annual greenhouse gas emissions from transportation are calculated resulting from occupant transportation to and from the building. The project team must conduct at least one occupant transportation survey every 365 days. And then, so this is the first half of the zero carbon balance. We're looking at carbon caused, and then looking at the other half of the zero carbon balance to carbon avoided. The equations that are listed here on the right column of this table are outlined in the LEED 0 program guide. But here you can see for carbon avoided, we are recognizing both on-site and off-site electricity. I wanted to note something important that applies for both LEED 0 carbon and the LEED 0 energy certification, which is projects must retain the renewable energy certificates that are associated with renewable energy generation in order to claim that renewable generation contributes to the zero carbon balance. So renewable energy certificates, also known as energy attribute certificates, provide a unit of measurement for each section of renewable electricity that is generated, and they really help convey the non-energy or the environmental attributes of that renewable energy generation. Project teams or organization, building owners are unable to claim that they are using renewable energy if they do not retain these renewable energy certificates, which verify, again, that your energy is from a clean source. So that is an overview of the LEED 0 carbon balance. As I mentioned, LEED 0 recognizes both on-site renewable energy and off-site renewable energy, and this is consistent with our approach in the LEED version 4.1 rating system. Project teams should follow a hierarchy for selecting renewable energy sources, and this is actually taken from the LEED 0 program guide. Here we are encouraging teams to first look at on-site generation as the most, sort of resilient and impactful way of procuring renewable energy. If on-site generation is not feasible, we'd encourage teams to look at local generation, such as a community solar project. If that's not available, project teams could then consider off-site generation projects. One example of that is a power purchase agreement. Then lastly, after the team has demonstrated that they have exhausted all of these other options higher up the hierarchy, teams can procure unbundled RECs or energy attribute certificates to offset their electricity use for zero energy and for zero carbon. And then lastly, for LEED 0 carbon, if necessary, teams can also procure carbon offsets to offset the emissions from their building energy use. Of course, the most important effective way to get to zero energy is to actually minimize or reduce your total energy demand. So really first focusing on improving energy efficiency in buildings is going to be the number one goal before you're looking at options for renewable energy procurement. For both LEED 0 and LEED 0 carbon and LEED 0 energy, we're asking project teams to submit a narrative that describes their renewable procurement strategy. And again, this narrative must generally address why, for example, on-site renewables cannot meet all the building energy demands, and also discuss how their off-site renewable energy procurement strategy reflects or aligns with this hierarchy for selecting renewable energy resources. So now we will look at LEED Zero Energy, which recognizes buildings that achieve a source energy use balance of 0 for the past year. We are using source energy as the metric here because we want to encourage teams, again, to consider the impacts of their energy usage beyond the project boundary. The source energy metric really accounts for losses during energy generation, distribution, and transmission. So it's a little more of a holistic picture of how a project team is using energy. Similar to the LEED Zero carbon balance, in the LEED Zero energy balance, total energy consumed is accounted for. Projects submit a calculation showing the conversion of all of their energy sources consumed at the site to this equivalent source energy metric. To do this, teams can use the national average Energy Star ratios for each building energy source. Projects outside the U.S. can also use the Energy Star source to site ratios or published ratios for the country or multi-country region where the project is located. Outside the U.S., if a project is looking to use their local ratio, site-to-source ratios, we just ask that the team submit a narrative that explains the development of those ratios, how it compares to the Energy Star development, and just provide that assurance that the ratios used were developed using a robust methodology. So this is the first half of the Zero Energy Balance table. The second half, we're looking at energy generated, again, from on-site and off-site renewable energy. Similar to the LEED Zero carbon, for LEED Zero energy, again, projects must retain the renewable energy certificates that are associated with generation in order for that generation to contribute to the Zero Energy Balance. So that is relatively straightforward, and here is, again, the second half of how we're looking at teams achieving zero energy. We had our first LEED Zero certified project located in Brazil achieve LEED Zero energy certification at the end of last year. This project was actually already sharing their energy performance data via the ARC platform, so the certification process was relatively straightforward in terms of documentation and performance data reporting. This project previously achieved platinum certification under the LEED for new construction rating system, so it was well positioned to hit zero energy. It is a highly efficient all-electric building that produces more electricity on site via its solar system than it consumes on an annual basis. So this was the first project that achieved LEED Zero Energy, which we were excited by. And we also have a number of zero energy projects that are currently engaged in the LEED Zero certification review process, and we are excited to announce those later this year. So those are the first two certifications under the LEED Zero program, LEED Zero Carbon and LEED Zero Energy. I wanted to give a little bit more context to the net zero carbon and net zero energy requirements by touching on updates that we made to our energy and atmosphere credit category in our newest version of the LEED rating system, which is LEED version 4.1. So LEED version 4.1 was an update to LEED v4. It was released, it has been released, the different version 4.1 rating systems have been released over the last 18 months, and they are currently available to project teams in beta for testing. We had a couple specific goals for this rating system update, which included sort of address market barriers for LEED, continue to define leadership, and measure performance. We made some important updates in the energy and atmosphere credit category of LEED version 4.1 that I think help illuminate the requirements for LEED Zero Carbon and LEED Zero Energy in our LEED Zero program. Basically, in developing the energy requirements for this version of the rating system, we looked at, market advancements in building energy efficiency, load management, and renewables procurement. We understood that we had some updates to make, so the changes that we made to these requirements reflect really the evolution of the market, as well as feedback from green building stakeholders who have continuously encouraged USGBC and LEED to raise the bar on energy performance and more directly address carbon emissions from building energy use in the rating system. So the resulting changes that we made here really intended to address that evolution, respond to our stakeholders, and also meet the goals and the scope that we had defined for the version 4.1 rating system. So just in terms of minimum energy efficiency, and again, these requirements are for new construction projects. And the goal here is to really set up new construction projects to achieve higher levels of energy performance and potentially hit net zero in building operations. But again, looking at our minimum efficiency criteria for new construction projects, we updated the reference standard to 90.1 2016, which ensures that LEED continues to be a global leadership standard for energy efficiency. We also, for the first time in a LEED new construction rating system, incorporated a greenhouse gas emissions metric. So again, now we're requiring owners to directly consider and address building carbon emissions from energy use. We are encouraging teams when they are calculating carbon emissions to use hourly emissions profiles. Again, encouraging people to consider the time of their energy use and start to explore how their energy efficiency as well as renewable procurement strategies might support or impact the operations of the local grid. So here we are introducing the usage of more granular greenhouse gas emissions factors for new construction projects and carrying that through in the LEED Zero carbon calculations, as I mentioned earlier. In the corresponding credit, which is the highest, which is worth the most points in the LEED rating system, if you'll recall that graphic that I showed at the beginning of this presentation that shows the breakdown of points, 35% of total points available are allocated to energy efficiency. And here, when teams are earning points under the Optimized Energy Performance Credit, there's two metrics, greenhouse gas emissions and cost, and we've split points between each of these metrics. The reason that the USGBC and our networks of volunteer committees decided to do that is to, one, get the buildings industry more comfortable with using carbon emissions as a metric for assessing performance. Historically, in LEED, we've used cost. So we introduced that split metric, 50% points go to greenhouse gas emissions, 50% go to cost, to really get the buildings industry more comfortable and familiar with that. We also know that cost is super important for building owners and that it can be used as a proxy for time of use impacts on the grid from building energy usage from markets where the cost of electricity is sensitive to demand. So there was a couple different reasons that the TAG decided to split the energy performance metrics against cost and greenhouse gas emissions. In the future, I think we will probably go to an all carbon emissions metrics for energy efficiency. Not definitely in LEED version 4.1, but that's something that we're considering in the future. Another couple changes worth mentioning are those that we made to the renewable energy credit in LEED version 4.1. This actually combines two credits from version 4, which were the green power and carbon offsets credit and the renewable energy production credit. This version 4.1 criteria really better recognizes the way that the renewables market is rapidly evolving, and it seeks to reward diverse methods of renewable procurement. The hierarchy of renewable energy that I mentioned earlier is reflected in these credit requirements. So teams can earn maximum points for on-site renewable energy generation. And again, the credit structure intends to encourage teams to invest in renewables with maximum impacts on grid integration and overall greenhouse gas emissions reduction. So this All of these requirements are available on our website if you want to take a look and get more familiar with them, usgbc.org/credits. One other change that we made in the version 4.1 rating system that I think is important to note are updates to the demand response credit. And this credit is now called grid harmonization in LEED version 4.1. This credit directly addresses the role of buildings in supporting grid scale decarbonization. And it really starts to reward technologies and strategies that provide building load flexibility and management. We want to really reward new construction as well as existing building projects for implementing operational strategies and technologies such as battery storage that support the intent of reducing strain on the grid, because we understand that buildings are not unique. They're actually part of a larger electricity system. And this is something that I think has been historically underlooked in the building industry. So we're trying to elevate this issue and encourage building projects to become better sort of grid citizens. So considering, again, the impacts of their energy usage and generation beyond the project boundary. And so that was just, again, a quick overview of some of the changes that we made to the LEED version 4.1 new construction requirements. And the reason that I wanted to share those with you is to help you understand how we are crafting our new construction requirements to better support project teams with zero energy and zero carbon goals. Now, going back to LEED Zero, we can talk about the LEED Zero Water Program, which recognizes buildings that achieve a potable water use balance of 0 for the past year. So again, here, the water use balance, we're looking at total potable water consumed to the sum of alternative water use and water returned to its original source. The zero water balance breakdown is on the screen now, and here we are looking at offsetting total potable water consumed with on-site sources that are captured and reused, off-site alternative water sources delivered to the project site, and water returned to its original source, so recharging the local aquifer or surface water. This LEED Zero Water certification will reward innovative approaches to restoring water quality and quantity. Here, we're building on the water efficiency requirements in LEED rating systems, and again, encouraging project teams to go above and beyond and demonstrate their leadership and stewardship of water. We anticipate seeing project teams that are targeting LEED Zero Water from early on in the project conception, being able to achieve this certification, and implementing strategies like gray water capture and reuse, green infrastructure on site, as well as sourcing alternative sources where available. Lastly, the fourth certification in the LEED Zero lineup is the LEED Zero Waste certification. This recognizes buildings that achieve GBCI's True Zero Waste certification at the platinum level. So GBCI is USGBC's sister organization that is responsible for administering all certifications. GBCI also administers the True certification, which is really a robust framework for buildings that intends to minimize resource use and achieve net zero waste in building operations. So TRUE stands for Total Resource Use and Efficiency, and it is one of the newest certifications that GBCI administers. This is the most comprehensive zero waste certification that is available in the market today, and it really helps facilities to define, pursue, and achieve their zero waste goals through project certification, and there's also an associated professional certificate program. You can become a TRUE advisor, similar to the credential that's available for LEED, the LEED AP. Zero waste facilities, again, save more money, are more efficient, help owners manage risk, reduce litter and pollution, cut greenhouse gases, intend to reinvest resources locally, create jobs, and add more value for their organization and the community. So for LEED Zero Waste, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel or come up with our own separate framework, we wanted to recognize, again, this rating system as a really robust and powerful tool for meeting zero waste goals. The terms zero waste economy, closed loop, and circular economy can be used interchangeably. So a circular economy is what the true rating system really strives for. And it's a regenerative system in which resource input and waste, emissions, and energy leakage are minimized by slowing, closing, and narrowing energy and material loops. This can be achieved through long-lasting design, maintenance, repair, reuse, remanufacturing, refurbishing, and closed recycling loops. So the circular economy is really in contrast to the linear economy, which is sort of the way that markets are structured now, which is sort of a take, make, waste model of production. The zero waste hierarchy is what the true certification is based on, and it really prioritizes resource management activities that will move businesses into that zero waste circular economy framework. This starts with the premise of redesign, reduce, reuse, and return, all the way down to the very last option, which is, of course, landfill and incineration. So this rating system actually takes a strong look at or encourages projects to work with their upstream suppliers as much as possible. So they're not just looking at, implementing recycling programs. They are looking upstream to actually reduce the total amount of material that is coming into the project. So there's also opportunities here to sort of analyze different materials, conduct research to determine how you can work with your suppliers to redesign products and packaging so that it's more easily managed and becomes a part of that circular economy. So the way that the zero waste hierarchy is structured is the highest and best uses all the way down to the ones that we want to avoid, which is, of course, sending materials into the landfill, incineration, or just trashing the environment. So there's a number of different true certified facilities. This rating system is available both to small and to large businesses, to different types of projects such as retail, manufacturing, space centers, theme parks. All of these facilities are eligible for true. We've seen entire business campuses like Microsoft's Redmond campus, which has over 25 buildings, certify. And we've also seen single facilities inside a larger resort or campus, such as a specific building in the Disneyland theme park. So you can certify a single facility or a part or all of your portfolio as well if you were a larger portfolio owner. A large grocery store chain in the United States has 28 different stores that have achieved true zero waste certification so far. The evidence for the economic, sort of environmental and societal benefits that true certified businesses experience is strong. And you can see that by some of the leading companies and organizations that have engaged with True to improve their bottom lines and cut costs. Business facilities we found who are going through True certification really save money by reducing waste hauler fees, earning revenue through resource recovery operations and reusing products, as well as reducing unneeded packaging for materials. Businesses can also save money by demonstrating their commitment to the environment. This increases their competitive marketing edge. Consumers care about zero waste and sustainability, and the businesses who demonstrate their zero waste efforts can win the heart and the dollar of an ever-increasing informed and aware customer base. This is why we think more and more businesses are recognizing the benefits of True certification and taking action. So that was an overview of each of the 4 certifications that are available within the LEED Zero program. The LEED Zero program guide, which I mentioned a couple times, is available on the LEED Zero website. This explains how projects should prepare to achieve certification, and it also provides a breakdown of the requirements for each certification that I just provided background on. We also do have an FAQ document that is available to project teams and a direct customer service email. So we've put the infrastructure in place to really work closely with all of you and your candidate projects to identify and certify buildings that are meeting these zero goals during operations. Projects will register and prepare for LEED certification in LEED Online. So here is a screenshot of LEED Online. You can see, so this would be if you had already registered or certified your project, you can see the LEED project information here. You'll also notice another tab that says LEED 0. So you can select that tab, and selecting that will display the opt-in page. So projects can opt into one or more of the certifications at once. And if they want to pursue more than one, that's great. We're excited to work with you. But this gives you multiple certifications and recognition of your the achievement of your zero goal. So after a project registers in LEED Online, it will sort of show up in their LEED 0 tab along with the certifications that they are pursuing. Right now, during 2019, we are building out the documentation functionality to support LEED 0 certification review process. In the interim, GBCI is working closely with project teams so that they can provide their performance data and supporting documentation for LEED 0 via the ARC platform as well as offline. So our ultimate goal is to have the LEED 0 certification process be very streamlined and complement your existing LEED certification. And that will be all facilitated and registered, documented, and achieved in LEED Online going forward. I mentioned our ARC platform, and I wanted to say that now in version 4.1, our LEED for operations and maintenance rating system, as well as the LEED 0 program, are both powered by the ARC platform, which again, the performance data benchmarking and analytics of the ARC platform are going to be integrated into LEED Online and ultimately support that streamlined certification process for LEED 0 teams, which I mentioned earlier. All LEED certified projects have access to the ARC platform. So if you haven't had a chance to activate your certified projects in ARC, I would encourage you to do so. Play around with the platform and start to share your performance data. Having that automatic access to the ARC platform really makes it easier for project teams to achieve LEED 0 certification, LEED version 4.1 for operations and maintenance certification, as well as share their performance data with USGBC to keep their certifications up to date. And lastly, when they're ready, they can also submit for LEED 0 certification review. So the ARC platform, as you can see here, tracks project performance on these 5 different performance categories: energy, water, waste, transportation, and human experience. And as you can see, the LEED 0 program overlaps with some of the metrics that are collected for each of these performance categories, with the exception of human experience. Projects pursuing LEED version 4.1 for operations and maintenance certification will use the performance scores that are generated by ARC, and the example is shown here, to earn points toward their LEED certification. The performance scores, just to be clear, are not relevant for LEED 0 certification. For LEED 0 certification, we're really just relying on the performance data tracking and benchmarking functionality of the platform, just so that's clear. And I mentioned our first LEED 0 certified project was achieved LEED 0 energy at the end of last year. Here is just here's an example of the LEED 0 certificate that the project earned. So this would be awarded to project teams that are achieving LEED 0 along with an official LEED 0 certification letter. We are really excited at USGBC to work with teams that are achieving LEED 0 and highlighting their important achievements. We do have an article that sort of serves as a project spotlight for Pettinelli, Curitiba on our website, so I would encourage you to check that out. If you know of a high-performing project in your region or one that you've worked on in the past that you think is a good candidate for LEED 0, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to them and review the materials available on our website to see if you're available to take this next step and earn this additional layer of certification and market recognition. Lastly, just in terms of participation, there is no there is no registration fee for LEED Zero. The certification fee is linked to project size, and this information is publicly available on our website. The LEED Zero certification is valid for a 3-year period. So after you achieve LEED Zero certification, it expires 3 years from the date that you accept that certification. So, again, there really is an expectation that project teams are continuing to monitor their performance, and we see this as an ongoing engagement. So after your initial certification, projects are really expected to continue sharing their performance data at least annually with USGBC, and then recertify every 3 years or more often if that aligns with your project's goals. But again, just wanted to note that as an operational certification that is verifying the last 12 months of performance, this certification is an ongoing sort of engagement. So that was the overview of the LEED Zero program. I really appreciate all of your attention today. I've provided, the Net Zero email address and my email on the screen now. So if you have candidate projects or questions about LEED Zero program implementation, you can email netzero@usgbc.org. My email is ehughes@usgbc.org. I am the technical development lead for this program. So if you have questions or feedback about the program requirements and scope, please shoot me a note. I would love to hear from you and understand how we can sort of evolve or refine the LEED Zero program in the future to make it really impactful and meaningful for project teams. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity today. I think we can open it up to questions if there are any questions.
Yes. Thank you very much, Emma, for the clear presentation. As you rightly said that, while buildings are overall becoming more efficient, but the demand for new buildings is only increasing. So, it is more appropriate than ever to actually push and go towards net zero. And it's the same thing in India we're looking at. How do we go towards net zero? So I think this program is very fitting in showing the path towards it. And thank you very much for explaining the water and the waste and the carbon component as well. It's actually good to know that you will be moving towards measuring everything with a carbon metric. So that's actually very good to know. So yes, we do have some questions here. The first question is for projects that have achieved a gold rating, for example, under the O&M. How close they are placed to achieving the LEED Zero status? I think this question is because the example that you've showed, the project in Brazil, it was already performing really well and was platinum certified. But if there are projects who are not at that level and are probably like at a silver or a gold, how close they are or how far away they are from achieving the LEED Zero status?
That's a great question. I think it probably varies by project. It really depends on, early on in the project process, setting a zero energy goal and working closely with the project team to deliver a highly efficient building.
Right.
I will say that the Pettinelli project that I showed was not actually, the Pettinelli project that I showed pictures of, after their initial LEED new construction certification,
Hmm.
actually went ahead and installed additional solar capacity for their project to get to LEED Zero. So I would say, we envision it is possible for both, new construction and existing building projects to meet this goal. We're definitely not limiting it to, just projects that have achieved LEED Platinum in the past, because we understand that renewable energy procurement strategies can change over time, and projects can sort of improve the operations of their buildings, if they're really committed to it and they're willing to make that investment. So I can't say, without looking at a specific project, how close or far away one is from achieving LEED Zero, but ultimately, if the project is really maximizing its efficiency, looking to generate, most of its energy on site, and then looking down that hierarchy for other options, I think that would be the best approach.
Okay. The next question is, if a project is already True certified, do they automatically qualify for the zero waste um, certificate?
That is a great question, and I should have clarified. So LEED Zero Waste recognizes projects that have achieved the True certification at the Platinum level. So similar to LEED, in the True rating system, we have different levels of certification. And for LEED Zero, are recognizing True Platinum projects, so those that have achieved the highest level of certification under True. And just as background, True is also an operational certification. So it's looking at your project's last 12 months of operation, and it has a combination of waste tracking and waste diverted metrics. So in order to achieve True certification, projects must, at a minimum, divert more than 90% of their solid waste, solid non-hazardous waste. So it's a high threshold, but the rating system is set up so that it really gives you the steps and the framework to pursue this ambitious goal.
Right. Next question is, if a building is, under version 3, certified under version 3, LEED version 3, is not really a high-performing building as of now, but they wish to apply and target the LEED Zero certificate. So are there any documentation or guidelines that actually show what is to be done for these buildings to actually reach there?
Sure, I would say that's a great question. So LEED Zero is open to projects that have certified under versions of LEED prior to version 4, such as LEED version 3 or LEED version 2009. I would say the best resources in terms of optimizing your building efficiency and making or progressing towards hitting a LEED Zero goal would be to look at the LEED for operations and maintenance rating system. If you are pursuing LEED version 4 for operations and maintenance, you'll get a pretty comprehensive framework of best practices for improving your building operations, reducing your energy use, reducing your water usage, but even more importantly, just understanding your resource use. So, at USGBC, we like to say you can't manage what you can't measure, but it's so important. There's a huge amount of buildings today that aren't even necessarily tracking their energy and water use, and we find that just tracking that use is the first step toward improvement, conservation, and higher levels of performance. So version 4, operations and maintenance, again, provides a very comprehensive set of guidelines that teams can use to improve their operations. That we also, like I mentioned, have LEED version 4.1 for operations and maintenance, which leverages the ARC platform. So another way to get at the same goal would be to share or input your performance data into the ARC platform and understand where you are today, understand what your energy usage has been for the past week, the past month, the past year, and then use that information to make informed decisions about, perhaps system upgrades or just improve schedules, system set points. There's a lot of different ways that you can get at these outcomes, but the most important thing is having the information to guide your decision making.
Right. Yeah. That was really to the point. And the last question I have is if there is a high performance building that I know of that's there in my city, but it's not LEED certified, how do they sign up for the program?
It's a great question. So in 2019, because LEED Zero is a new program, we've limited the certification available to, again, project teams that have previously achieved LEED certification. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first is, again, we want to recognize those projects and celebrate them as high performers. The second reason is by only recognizing projects that have already engaged with our, more comprehensive LEED rating system, we are ensuring a minimum level of resource efficiency and operations of the building. So as you all know, there's 6 different credit categories in the LEED rating systems, and we think, that holistic perspective in designing, constructing, and operating a building is really, really important, and we didn't want to lose sight of that by focusing on project performance in one area, such as energy. So that is why we have that prerequisite, or that minimum program requirement. So if there's a high-performing project in your area, I think I would love to connect with them and discuss sort of the benefits of our certification systems. But the first step for that project would be to make a commitment to or register to pursue certification under our LEED for existing buildings operations and maintenance rating system, and start to share their data. And if they register under LEED version 4.1 for operations and maintenance, they can again input their performance data across those 5 categories in the ARC platform, see how they're doing, and understand how close or how far away they are from O&M certification. And in that way, also start to hit the minimum program requirements for LEED Zero, which is, again, previous certification to a LEED system. So hopefully that helps. I will say we're sort of evaluating that criteria for future iterations of the LEED Zero program. I know there's also some interest from the market at delivering a LEED Zero certification or LEED Zero sort of ready, perhaps, certification for new construction buildings. So again, if you have ideas for what that should look like, I would love to hear those as well. What we're really excited about, because this is such a new program, is engaging directly with the market, hearing all of your questions, comments, concerns, and improving the program over time.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was excellent. And we are almost time now. And I thought, we could have like a little poll just so it's a little fun to see if people can recall some of the things that we've been discussing. So I'm going to just quickly flash the poll and launch. Right. So everybody can see. Poll must, okay. I think everybody can see this question. Does true certification yeah, so everybody answered yes, but still the votes are coming in. Does true certification measure the waste footprint of a facility? Yes or no? So you can just click on your screen to give your vote to the question. All right, so that is a unanimous yes. Of course, it measures the waste footprint of a facility. Let's go to the next one. The next question is LEED Zero applicable only to existing buildings? Yes or no? You can again click on the screen to send in your votes to the to what you think is the right answer. Is LEED 0 applicable only to existing buildings? That's actually pretty simple. All right, so, well, 50% says yes, 50% says no. So, Emma, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the building has to be an existing building with, data to actually verify whether they could be LEED 0 or not.
That's correct. We need at least 12 months of operational data in order to administer the LEED 0 certification. I might have confused things at the end when I mentioned that we're evaluating a LEED 0 ready sort of certification for new construction buildings, but that is not available yet. And that was just sort of a sneak peek into what we might roll out in the future.
Right, okay. So, I mean, that's good to know, like, it just clarifies everything. And then the last question is, again, now you can see on your screen, do all LEED certified projects have access to the ARC platform? Yes, no, not sure. We pretty much discussed about the ARC platform. All right, the answers are coming in. What does it look like? It looks like 70% are saying yes, 20 no, and the rest not sure. But the most of them saying yes. Yes, so the answer is yes. All LEED certified projects do have access to the ARC platform. All right, thank you so much for participating in the poll. I hope that was enjoyable. So just quick, this brings us to the end of the webinar. And I once again thank Emma for taking out her time so early in the morning to share everything about LEED 0 with us. Thank you so much.
Of course. And, thank you, Deepa, for setting this up.
Sure, my pleasure. And next week, we will discuss about the IGBC net zero rating system. So that's kind of interesting, how the two rating systems with the same intent, but just understanding how they're capturing the nuances of a net zero facility. So next week, 4th July at 4 p.m., the week after that, I'm sorry. So we'll talk about IGBC net zero rating system. And lastly, if you haven't yet signed up on our net zero energy website, please do so today. All the events, even the webinar recording, the links to it, you can find it in the Knowledge Center. You can read a lot about the net zero buildings and understand different strategies. There are many case studies. It's a resource which is free for you to read and get knowledge on green, net zero buildings. And connect with us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube as well. You can find all the webinar recordings on YouTube. Thank you so much for logging in, and I will see you in the next session.